Identifying the suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Yeah, I mean, horror is not something I cover a huge amount on my channel. It's very niche, and I think particularly for the main channel, there's just not enough real interest in most of the films to like justify it. But you know, last October I did do a string of horror film reviews. You know, like older stuff like what was that one? Deathline, about it's the London Underground with cannibals living down there, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that kind of thing. So my plan is for this October. Because I've got my second channel now and I put reviews up on that, it's a much better suited place for this kind of thing. So I'm going to try and do as many horror films as I can this month. Get a few out.
What's your take on horror then? Like, I know October is probably the month where most people will do their YouTube videos on horror stuff, even if they're not horror related channels. But what's your thoughts overall on horror? Did you grow up with horror, or was it more kind of like action, sci-fi, thriller?
For me, it was definitely action and sci-fi. Like that was what I would be watching, like whether it was with my dad or on my own or whatever. Horror was just something that was on occasionally, and it'd be like, I don't know, man. Like I remember watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers with my dad when I was probably too young for it, and it scared the shit out of me. Like all the times, and they go like, stuff like that. But I enjoy it on occasion, just for a bit of something different. And I've got certain tastes, I think, with horror films. Like I'm not into the kind of torture porn movies that you get, like the Saw movies. Just doesn't do it for me. I don't find that fun or anything. It's just kind of depressing. Same with the Hostel films. But a slasher film's good fun. Like Halloween, obviously we'll talk about. And yeah, like the films like Event Horizon I really enjoyed, just because it's like it brings together sci-fi and horror, so stuff like that. It's pretty good fun.
Yeah, it kind of obviously one of my favorite films, obviously, is Halloween, but one of my other favorite horror films and favorite films of all time is The Thing by John Carpenter. That obviously breaks the kind of horror sci-fi mold as well. I'm guessing you're a fan of The Thing. I
do, yeah, I am. I think I gave it a Drinker Recommends, actually. I've done a review on it already, and cracking film. Like, brilliant kind of paranoia and tension building, amazing creature effects. Like, for it all being practical effects and puppetry and stuff, it looks incredible. And yeah, what a cool concept, This thing that can morph into anything, and all it takes is a single drop of blood, and that can infect you. Like, that's great. Yeah, and it's got Kurt Russell and his beard in it, so what's not to like?
I love the tension in The Thing. You've got that scene where they're trying to test to see who's not themselves.
Yeah,
and they've got a little can of something, kind of like what have you seen The Faculty?
Yeah, have I?
Yeah, do you remember the scene where they're in Zeke's house and they're all testing each other, snorting the drug to see who's?
It's coming back to me because it's like the aliens. They take over human bodies, but they need to drink loads of water or something, don't they?
Yeah, it's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They kind of referenced Invasion of the Body Snatchers in it. And The Thing is a massive influence on The Faculty, especially that one scene where they're all sitting in a little room and they think that one of them's been taken over by an alien, but the only way to figure out who's human is they have to snort this scat that Zeke calls it to see who's an alien, who's not, and it's just kind of reminiscent of The Thing. And it's a scene that it's quite rare these days because you don't see that in horror films, even in the 90s. But now you don't get that kind of tension build up. It's like you said, you get your torture porn, and you get jump scare after jump scare with no kind of story to it.
Yeah. I think in some ways the Scream movies kind of ruined horror. Like they certainly ruined the slasher genre because then you got to the point of like satire and parody. Where it's like poking fun at the conventions of the genre, and so like after that you couldn't really do a legit one for a long time and make it work, and so you lost a lot of that. And then the sort of paranoia aspect of like, is this person or that person infected? It's like they just don't want to put in the work to do that kind of stuff now. So it's a shame, man.
It's also probably down to the budget restraints that they've got, and are they willing to spend that much time these days making a horror film that they know is going to cost $10 million and it'll make $30 million at the box office? So they kind of, they're skimping and scraping on the writing, the directing, etc. Whereas before, I know that Halloween was made in 2 weeks or so, but before you did get a group of people who knew what they were doing, they were competent, and they wanted to make the horror film. Whereas today, people are hired just to make a quick buck, and that's it. And I think that's a big difference between horror then and horror now.
I think you could probably apply that to a lot of genres.
Yeah,
you know,
I suppose.
You go back to like the 70s, the 80s, there was a lot of people who were doing things on a pretty small budget, but there was a lot of passion behind it because they had a real artistic vision. Whereas, like you say now, it's more like directors are just hired in to do these gigs, and they don't really care about the source material or what they're trying to do. It's just, it's a job for them, and so it shows in what they produce. I mean, I'm sure there's still people making things, like particularly little independent movies, or even like people doing stuff on YouTube, whatever it might be. You can do a lot on a pretty small budget now with fairly decent CGI to cover the gaps. And the people that are doing these things are doing it with that kind of passion. They don't have the budget, but like you can get good things coming out of it. So there's always opportunities for it, I guess. It's just whether they get the exposure and the mainstream appeal that they need to actually be successful. That's the tough part.
Have you seen any, like in your opinion, any good pure horror films lately? And I don't mean foreign horror, like Hollywood style horror.
It's been a while, man. It really has. I think back to things like 28 Days Later, and I realized that was about 10, 15 years ago.
Or 20 years ago.
Oh, God, is it that long?
2002,
Damn. Train to Busan, I really liked. When I think about all the Ring movies, they were proper old as well. They were like the 2000s. Yeah, I can't think of a horror movie in recent years that I've thought, damn, that really got to me.
Have you seen The Babadook?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it myself. I've heard it's really good though.
Yeah,
it's the trailer made it look amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a mismarketing thing. It is a horror film at the end of the day, but it's more of like a psychological drama, and that's what I like about it, because it deals with horror as a metaphor, and it's about a woman dealing with depression and illness and loss, and her depression manifests into a horror, The Babadook, and it's portrayed really well. And I think it's not only is it a good film, it's great acting, great directing, very eerie. It's probably one of the more modern horror films that have got more of a deep thought behind it, rather than just your straightforward slasher, horror, gore, etc. Well, it's one I definitely recommend anyway.
Let's give that a go. Actually, it kind of passed me by at the time, and it's like, once you miss that opportunity, it's like it's never on TV or anything. You just don't really think about it. But yeah, probably good opportunity to go back and see it.